Good afternoon. Welcome to Put Your Family First podcast. I am your host with the coldest and the mostest. I guess I got my head on. I need to take it off, show my bald head. Right. Today is that day, right? We got a special guest in the building. Brother Dev Hawk. Before we get on, Heather, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Perfect. Brother Dave, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good. So we're going to get into this conversation here, but before we get into the conversation, right, I like to highlight that we're getting ready for our March 1st pancake breakfast. So far by Cots Detroit and Brilliant Detroit, and we have our speakers, which will be Cindy Eagleton, the CEO of Brilliant Detroit, Cheryl Johnson, the CEO of Detroit Cots, and Brother Bert Johnson, where we are going to, our theme for the pancake breakfast is unity is love, and family will be in the building. So we're excited about that because we want the families to see more families. I invited a surprise guest, a friend of mine that I'd love to see if he pop in. While the government is handling and closing diversity and inclusion, we're going to increase our diversity and inclusion because that's what we do as people and leaders of people. And so for that moment, this is going to be nice. Also, this Saturday, any man out there want to get involved can pop in at 12 o'clock over at a new location for Good Fathers Only. We'll just be talking and mingling, having some breakfast, figuring some things out for the year because we got to get our hands dirty. And what else we got going on?
We have our collective, our seminar coming up for...
It's Saturday the 21st, right?
Saturday the 15th.
The 15th.
Third Saturday of the month.
Third Saturday, I might be out of town. I'm just kidding.
Well, that's okay. The Women Ignited Summit series, right?
So we'll be having discussions again around family and things like that. So we can bring up my man Dev Hawk and allow him to join the family. And what's up, brother? How you doing?
What's good? How y'all feeling?
Oh,
good. Right. We was glad to get you on. My guy, one of my fathers, the ultimate text guru. We call him the text guru, Stephen Brimbry, made this happen. So we didn't want to let it go without, letting him know, yeah, we here, we're visible, because if you don't let Steve know, he gonna text you. So we want to make
big
sure.
Big shout out to Steve, man.
Right, big shout out to Steve, right. So with that being the case, Dev, tell everybody your family story.
All right, first, before I get there, I want to say that intro to the show is amazing. The I'll Be Sure flavor in the beginning.
Well, thank you, brother.
Get you pumped and ready. So I definitely respect it. I appreciate that.
Thank you, brother. I try hard.
Hey, that's love, man. And if I could tell y'all, I'm gonna try to be as brief as possible because my story gets a little crazy. But I have two sons. My oldest son is 5. My youngest son is 3. My youngest son is the result of what some people might call a break baby. My current fiance and I, we had split up for some time. And during that time, I ended up procreating with another young lady. This young lady that I was dealing with, I made it very clear that I did not want children. And at the end of the day, it's still my responsibility 100%. I take full responsibility for my actions. But the young lady told me that she could not conceive. Medical things had mentioned that she would never have a child, even if she wanted to. She would never carry the full term. My son is the healthiest, most strongest kid that I've ever known.
Right.
So we all know that that wasn't true. But long story short, um, there was a switch because once she became pregnant, my initial response was, "Well, whatever you want to do, I'm all for it." But I'll just let you know, this is not. I'm not excited about this. This is not what I want. And I think me not being excited caused for her to feel away. And so as time progressed, mind you, when my son was born, I was in the hospital. I cut the umbilical cord, all these different things. And it was always just this discrepancy and a back and forth about if I'm able to take him with me. So once my son got to, I think he was about 9 months, I'm like, hey, I think that I should start getting him by myself. And she's like, no, if you want to see him, you got to come to my house. And that was the only way. But because I wasn't going to her house so often, it was causing this divide between us. And now we're getting into these heavy arguments. And long story short, she threatened me with taking me to court for child support. And I thought that I would beat her to the punch by going down there, but she made it down there first. My thing was I was going to go and get custody. Now, at this time, this is 2022. I don't know nothing about child support. All I know is the stories that I've heard from everybody else is that you can't win. Child support is a thing that once you're put on it, you have to deal with it all the way up until your child is 18 years old. And when I seen that there was an actual child support case coming for me, I started calling lawyers, started looking for a way. I couldn't find a way. And when it all boils down to it, I was in an uphill battle with not much knowledge. And there was nobody out there that could show me or teach me. One thing about me, though, is I'm very resilient, I'm very resourceful. And I just started studying, I started looking for things. And as I would find things, I would compile that data, that information. And when it came time for me to go to court, boom, I beat my case. Now, when I first beat my case of child support, and let me know if I'm talking too much, guys.
No, you good. This is your story,
All
brother.
right. So when I first won the case, though, this was in 2022, and the reason that I was able to win the case is because I did not consent with them. I did not turn in any of my financial documents because they consider that as consent. I did not have any conversation with them about money during the hearing, and because of my non-cooperation, the magistrate decided, well, we're going to have to dismiss this because he's not cooperating. Mind you, this is a private child support matter. It's not like my son's mother was receiving TANF or SNAP. She wasn't receiving any welfare. So push through. Showing people how to get child support off of their credit. And you would think that that's the end of it, right? I want child support. No. As I start showing people how to get child support off of their credit, now I'm showing friends and family how they can deal with child support. I'm learning more. And I'm doing all this stuff for free for people, just showing everybody, as many people as I possibly could. My following on Instagram went from 11,000 to 25,000 in about 2 weeks. And then it just continued, to grow from that point. And I kept telling people, man, I wish that I could show you how to do it because a lot of people did not believe, and I didn't have as many success stories back then. And man, you got to be careful what you wish for because they came back at me and opened another child support case against me with the same child, except for this time they defaulted me because they served me at an address that I did not live at. I had no idea that there was going to be a court hearing or anything, and there was a child support case open against me. And then I was the only person in the United States of America who was excited that he was on child support. I said, yo, watch this. I'm going to show y'all. And I documented everything. From start to finish, I beat that child support case. I went and got 50-50 custody of my son. He's upstairs right now with his older brother. I got him 4 days a week, 4 days on, 4 days off. And my whole thing is you can do it if you learn the proper procedures. And once you learn these procedures, man, it seems like learning a new language, but I promise if you just take that time and effort, you can get it done. But the best feeling of it all is not the fact that I didn't want to pay child support. I just didn't want to have the state nor my child's mother dictating how I can have a relationship with my child. I wanted to be the man that I am, and I didn't want to be, oh, this ain't your son, or this ain't your son, but when it comes down to the money, it's your son. I didn't approve of that. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Okay, so that's good. So I need to know this: who is Dev? Like, what is your parenting story? Where is your parents in your life? What is your growing up story?
Okay. So I'm from North Philadelphia, Abbotsford Projects, born and raised. It's so crazy. I was born in the hospital that was directly across the street from the projects that I lived in. So, my dad was never really around until I got older.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned throughout that time is because my mother, no disrespect to her when I mention these things or I say these things, but my mother was putting a lot of pressure on my dad to be a father. My dad was only 17 years old when they had me, and so that made him rebel and push away from me. And so I just grew up with only my mother, my grandmother. But now my dad and I we're best friends. You know, we take multiple trips together. Ironically, now I'm glad you asked about that. Right, my dad is 56 years old. 50, yeah, he's 56. I got a 13-year-old sister. My dad is the best father to this little girl that I'm kind of jealous of the dad that she gets. And I'm a junior. I'm named after my father. And I'm kind of jealous of this little girl. But ironically, him and his child's mother had a little bit of a dispute. And she just filed for child support against him. And I said, she must not know who your son is. This is crazy. So it's just terrible to see that. But long story short, my dad and I were good now. We just didn't have the ultimate best relationship growing up. But now that I'm grown, you know, things are a little bit different. I see life from an adult's point of view, so I understand. I'm not holding on to the past of the fact that he really wasn't there for me the way I think he should have been.
Right.
So yeah.
No, that's good. It sounds like you got a good disposition. Anybody else got a question before?
Yeah, I was thinking, wow, that must be nice to be the same age as your dad. Not that you're his age. He's your age, I'm saying. Just that relationship. That's awesome.
Yeah,
where you can have a comrade, you know.
Right.
Yeah. And that you can have these conversations because of much of your life journey, I would imagine is, similar. So that's good. That's good.
It's funny. It's funny, though, because now it's kind of like, you know, our age difference is only 17 years apart.
Right.
And as a kid, it's a big difference. But once you get older, it's like, oh yeah, we're on the same trajectory now.
Yes, absolutely. I have a couple of questions. So where have you found that you're most like your dad? Like what areas of your life, even from parenting, how do you see yourself being most like your dad? And it's a reason I'm asking this question. So
Understood. I think the only thing is I just look like my dad. He's light skinned though. Like I'm a darker version of him. But I'm literally the opposite of him. It's weird. It's weird to say that. But no, parenting, different. I'm 10 times better of a parent than he is. I'm more of a risk taker. I'm more of a person who thinks for himself. I don't conform with what society calls reality. I make my own path, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm willing to set a blaze in my path as I go. My father is more like believe in the hype. And so like my dad is the youngest of all his brothers, and one of my uncles is a business owner. He's been a business owner for about 40 years, 30 years. And my dad listens to every word that he says, so much so that my dad's not thinking for himself. And I'm like, yo, Pop, you can't move like that. You gotta be a free thinker. So when it comes down to that, we're totally different.
Right.
And I was asking because we know, and we can cite examples even from our own lives around where the DNA code is imprinted on our children, or the DNA code of our parents is imprinted on us. So I was just kind of wondering where those areas were for you.
Well, you know what? I think it's because of me not having him around when I was younger, made me feel like if I ever had children, I would never leave them wondering where daddy was. And
Statistic.
then, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I mean, that's a statistic, but go ahead.
Yeah, so, but then, like, other things about my life, I'm 40 years old right now. I had my first child at 30, 34, 35, but I did 10 years at federal prison. So I didn't have children until I came home from being incarcerated. And we're just totally different in the aspect that I just knew that I wanted to be the best father that I could be for my child. But it's not to say that my dad never showed a lot of love to me. He did. He just didn't know how to be a good dad, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. We always think our parents have it all together. And I love, this is one of the things that Dave talks about, who's here in the studio with us. He always talks about you can't give what you don't have. You didn't have the knowledge to give, then it's hard to give that to somebody. We look at it hindsight as adults and look back on our childhood and look at our parents and, wonder or say, why they weren't this or why they weren't that. But if they didn't have it to give us, they didn't have it to give us. It's,
Right.
it's a journey just like it is for us now. Yeah. Thank you for sharing
100%.
that. Yeah.
No doubt.
So you actually, that's two statistics, right? Right. So in that regard, but my next question for you, Dev, is what was the toughest case you had in helping someone with child support?
Okay. So this is good. All right. So are you guys familiar with the hip hop group from late '90s, early 2000s called Mobb Deep?
Yep.
Okay. So the one surviving member is a gentleman by the name of Havoc. Havoc came to me a few months ago. Was having a terrible time because he had a child support case that was so unconstitutional. Oh my God, jurisdictional issues out the wazoo. His child and his child's mother are residents of Germany. Never lived in the United States of America. Never visited the United States of America. And that was probably the most challenging case because all the other cases is like I know how to challenge these things, and this was the most intriguing, the most challenging. And needless to say, we beat that case as well. He got that case thrown out about a month and a half ago. I got video testimony of that. However, we don't put it out because he just wants to not rub it in his child's mother's face that he did that. So respectfully, I don't do it unless I have a private group and I share that. But that was the toughest case that I've had.
That's pretty good, right? So you've been getting all these W's. You get all these wins from helping people. So like when you're talking child support, you go from a constitution perspective, I take it.
100%.
And so in that case,
it has to be. Excuse me.
go ahead.
It has to be constitutional. The
Okay.
reason for that is because most of us as Americans, most of us as Black Americans, we only know a couple of our constitutional rights. We know we can say whatever we want. First Amendment, we know we have a right to bear arms, and we know that we can plead the fifth. Like this is the only thing that we know.
Right.
Unfortunately, with the ignorance that possesses us, the courts use that against us. And we forget that what was the reason for the Constitution? The Constitution was put in place to protect us as citizens, to make sure that those who were in power, who had power, would not abuse that power against the citizens of the United States. And so we have to attack it from a constitutional point of view, because essentially we are saying, wait, I have certain rights as a parent. I have certain rights as a father. Well, what are those rights? Under the United States Constitution, it says that we have the right to decide what's in the best interest of our child. Well, what is the number one thing that they say in child support and custody courts? Oh, we're doing this for the best interest of the child, which means that you have to now break down the fact that I am not fit to make that decision, and you have to override that decision. They never do that. They just tell you this is for the best interest of the child, and because you don't know your rights, you just like, what can I do? And you let it go. So we got to come from a constitutional standpoint.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because my next question had to do with the relationship between child support and family court. Just bridging that gap. In my understanding, that was what I saw when I did the research, that even for family court, it's still supposed to be, what's in the best interest of the child. And
Right.
and well-being. It said something about best interest of the child and also their well-being. But how, like, when you hear that and you've seen that in the cases that you help to support, what is in the best interest of the child that you've seen? What kind of issues come up where there's a dispute between mother and father in terms of what's in the best interest of the child?
Well, what's in the best interest of the child is left to your discretion. As long as your child is not abused, as long as your child is not neglected, in so many varieties, it's really your discretion. And what do I mean by that? If I wanted to have a trailer, a one bedroom trailer attached to the back of my truck and live on the road and have my child go with me everywhere I went, nobody could say that that's not a quality life for my child. Nobody could tell me that no, your child has to have an apartment. Or, sometimes you hear these things where they say, well, you got 3 kids and you're living in a one bedroom apartment. Well, guess what? Nothing says that that's wrong. The discretion that I get to choose, that as long as my children have comfort, as long as my children have the food that they need, even if we only lived in a one bedroom apartment, even as crazy as this sounds, even if we all slept on air mattresses, the courts cannot say that you're unfit by doing such a thing. So that's what it boils down to. The best interest of the child is whatever you decide for it to be.
And so how does that stand in court? What are the grounds that you have when the court can say, and I've seen this before too, that, they have to have their own either sleeping space, like their own bed or their own room, or like these types of details. They have to have, it could be anything from the clothes that they wear. They have to have clean clothes. They have to have nutritious foods and those kinds of things. Have you seen that as a dispute?
Yeah,
and establishing that. And one parent may feel that is a good thing, and the other parent may say that that's not enough.
Well, that's the thing. That's you falling into their routine. See, a lot of courts operate off of what I like to call routine. And when it comes down to routine, it's just what they're used to doing. They've been doing this since 1974. Whether correctly or incorrectly, this is just how they've been doing it. So much so that it's carried such a weight to where they don't even incorporate law into it, only when it benefits them, right? So what do I mean by that? Well, according to the United States Constitution, and a particular case is called Smith versus the City of Fontana. Smith versus the City of Fontana says that a parent has first right to decide what's in the best interest of their child, and no state shall deprive an individual of their life, liberty, and property without full due process of the law. So what is the liberty that one has? One has a custodial interest, one has an interest of society and companionship with their child. So if I have the full discretion first before the state comes in, mother and father can disagree totally. That's perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, they both have a equal right and an equal decision that can be made for where they have to agree. The only time it can get out of pocket is when one party is not willing to compromise. But outside of that, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks when, as the parent, I have the first right to make a decision. So that means that even if I make a decision and the state doesn't feel like they agree with it, the United States Constitution says that I have discretion to decide what's in the best interest of the child. That whole best interest of the child formula that they put together, that's arbitrary. That's what they put together. These are my God-given rights. God gave me the opportunity to be a father or, a mother to my child, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, which, it really falls into, I don't know if you follow foster care at all, right? So in foster care, they use that same arbitrary move.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are losing their kids because of the lack of knowledge and understanding that process.
Yes.
Like I forget the name of the book I read. This was toward last October. Is a book I read about the foster care system, right? And in the foster care system, where we were just having the conversation where you were having about you having 3 kids in one room, right? The foster care system come in and arbitrarily enforce that. And so what happens to black children in the foster care system, right? If your kids fall into the foster care system, black kids are in the foster care system 18 months longer.
Mm-hmm.
And the foster care system literally put these kids in harm's way. They don't get all the tools and the bells and the whistles that come with if you need therapy, they don't do that with black kids. And and a lot of people don't understand that part that you've been talking about understanding what the Constitution offers you in this court of law.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so that's real big in what you're sharing, because as a matter of fact, it's bigger than what you brought to the table today with that conversation by saying and painting the picture about the Constitution. That's going to mess up that next meeting I'm sitting in. You see what I'm saying? Because the child support system is sitting right there. So when we're having this conversation, we're going to arbitrarily push back.
You got to.
Yeah, that's important. Another question. Have you seen in your work a lot of men that don't have the ability to really go through and fight? Like, are you seeing poor literacy levels in this process, understanding those types of things when you're working with men and trying to help them understand the strength that they have?
Yes. Oh my goodness. First, if I could just name all the different dispositions that I see, you have some people who are financially strapped. They are beyond poor because child support is just taking so much money from them. They don't have a driver's license anymore, so it's hard for them to go out and find actual jobs that will help them to make money. They're constantly having their bank accounts levied. Some guys are getting evicted just because of the financial side of things. Then you have some people who are intelligent, but they have a complex to where they don't listen. They just want to talk. And it's very hard to teach someone who is not willing to use the 2 ears that they have to listen. So you have that, and then you have some guys who are I had a guy the other day just told me, he said, "Man, listen, I'll be honest with you, I'm illiterate to where I can't. It's hard for me to read a lot of the stuff. The good thing about me is that I teach from different standpoints. I write books, I create audio books, I do videos, and then obviously I have other literature. So I try to offer a variety of things that people could be able to use to learn. But yes, that whole ignorance factor is not as common. There's a lot of people who are on it. It's just financially they're strapped because child support is just robbing them so bad that it has nothing to do with the children. It's weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, that part that you just shared right there, the disposition. We see that's a real psychological deficit in areas, right? Because you can take the wrong disposition, right, and not really get to see what you're really there for. You know you're in pain, but like the one brother said, you know, he's really literate to the thing, and so that's the area that we have to simplify, if you will, if you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, and so absolutely. I believe that's why you simplified it in those different areas, because that was going to be my next question. Like, how are you contractually, how are the people paying you for this work, right? How are you being, you know, what is the plan going forward? And how can you be, you know, helped or assisted and grown? There are a couple of people from Philadelphia that I know that I would love to hook you up with, that's from Philadelphia, but then they're in North Carolina and they work in that area. So those are the people. Those are a couple of people that I've really thought about and bringing you into the space, our space, so you can show and create other warriors like yourself. So what does that look like for you? And you know, I mean, do you have an office space? I mean, how do you make this thing happen for many other people?
So I work with students all over the United States. I got students, like active students right now, who's in my 101. California, Florida, Texas, like almost any state you can name, I have active students. But what I do is I offer a variety of different things. And the reason that I do that is because if I was to only focus on, quote unquote, those who are financially able to pay me for my time or for my lessons, then I wouldn't be able to help as many people as possible. So I have a lot of free programs. I have, first of all, my Instagram by itself, I give out so much free information. It just takes what I like to call sweat equity. So if an individual is new to me, he's going to go and scroll through my Instagram page. He's going to find at least a good 500 posts that are geared toward child support. And that's absolutely free. He just has to comb through it and find out which one is for him. I offer, sometimes I might have a program, like for instance, I just did a promo the other day where I was offering one of my $400 programs for $7. And it's like, well, why are you offering that for $7 if it's worth $400? It was only worth $400 when I first put it together because it took so much time and effort for me to put it together and break it down in a way that a fifth grader could understand. But outside of that, I got one-on-one. You can get consultations with me, or you can do one-on-one coaching. We normally have a 1-month program or a 3-month program, and I have office space, but mostly we work virtual. Don't put no limits, because if you want me and my time and you really want to sit down with me, it ended up costing you more. And not to sound cocky, but it's going to cost you more because I could be doing anything with my time. I could be chilling with my kids. I'd rather talk to you on the phone for an hour and not have to drive to somewhere and then drive back and all of that stuff. So I like to work virtually.
Okay, it makes a lot of sense. But you know, it's funny. So you're using the principle $7, pull them in, and then you throw that offer back at them.
Sometimes it's only letting them know that there's an option. I'm not necessarily I'm not a salesman when it comes to this. I just want you to learn, and I tell them before you even buy anything from me, bro, just go and look the stuff up that I mentioned on my page. Just go look it up. If you need help, you can ask a question. When I go live, you can come on and you can get a free consultation from me because you'll help me create content. I only want a person to come and spend money with me when they're like, Dev, you the person that can get this thing done. I don't want to have to figure it out. It's going to take me much longer to do it on my own. I'm ready to rock out with you because you're going to help me get there faster. That's it. It's not a pressure thing.
That's awesome. And that's good, Dev. It's good to have a strategy. That's a good strategy. And making sure that you spread the word because you know so many people are hurting. Anybody have any questions for him before I?
No, I just want to tell you I'm very impressed with your tenacity and your strength and your ability to initially start from the heart to help those who are in the struggle with you.
Okay.
And at the same time, you've learned the language. You know, many times people don't know the language. Everything has a language. Technology has a language. Medical has a language. You learn the language of the law in relation to child support. So that's significant because then you can simplify it. And if you can simplify it, people can comprehend it. If they can comprehend it, they can execute it. So I commend you for your ability to do the work. And if you do the work, you know, it helps people get understanding. If they got understanding, fear goes out the window, and they're more prone to be more proactive than reactive.
So, Dev, hold on. We got a call in. Okay. Caller, you're on the air.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, they hung up. Caller, if you're out there, you call back. But
I have a question.
Go for it.
How do you suggest that people who are co-parenting, any suggestions for co-parenting who may have, various levels of disagreement about, what happens at my house or what happens at your house? Any suggestions for how to co-parent better using this strategy and the tools that you have adopted?
I'm going to be honest with you. Before getting 50-50 custody of my son, my baby mom my son's mother treated me like crap every moment that she got. It was always her way or the highway. It was no compromise. It wasn't co-parenting. It was you parent the way I want you to parent. I say that men need to go and exercise their right to have 50-50 custody because now my son's mother is much more polite and she actually asked my opinion on things. Like she's taking my son to the doctor to see about his allergies. She said, is there any questions you want me to ask? Before she didn't say any of those things. So if you're asking me, I say that everyone needs to have a equal stake inside of the co-parenting world when it comes to raising their children. And men cannot be making these excuses. Women should not be forced to deal with all of this stuff by themselves. Okay, men should be able to carry the weight, not just financially, but just really being involved with their children. But I'm not a relationship expert, and everybody's personality is different. So I cannot tell you that these are things that you should do, but I believe that you should exercise your right to be a 50-50 custodial parent and that just move in that regard.
And I know that you had mentioned that in your relationship, you had made a declaration about.
Hold on, we got a caller. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Caller, you on the phone?
Yeah, this Steve, Cal. That was me at first. I didn't know that's how this worked.
Okay, what is your question?
So asking. Most people think they need a lawyer to fight their case. They just need to educate themselves. Ask them to explain the whole thing behind what the lawyers do and things of that nature.
Okay. Did you hear the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, so this is going to be shocking to most people, but honestly, this is the truth. Lawyers are not on your side. A lawyer's first duty, and you can go and read this and look it up. A lawyer's first duty is to the court. Their second duty is to the public, and their third duty is to their client. Ironically, the client's the one who's paying them. When it comes down to child support, because that's an administrative process, in child support, the lawyers have a strict guideline for which they're able to present arguments. They can't mention certain things, they can't argue certain things for the simple fact that it's not within the guideline which gives them the authority to talk about certain things.
Hang
And
that up.
this is by design. Okay? They
Right.
they put it together this way because if you're ignorant and you don't know anything, you're going to have to go get an attorney. Then when you get an attorney and an attorney only has a certain guideline for which he can talk about, he's never going to talk about your constitutional rights, ever. Never. In all the cases I've done research on, they don't talk about your constitutional rights. They're never going to really mention if the state has violated the procedures for which they're supposed to operate, because their first duty is to the court. They're there to satisfy the court. They took the bar. Oh, it gets deep. I don't want to go too far, but nah.
So repeat that. The first duty is what?
To the courts.
The second
Second
duty
duty is to the public, and third duty is to the client.
So basically, the legal jargon is, like you said, administrative. So that's what lawyers really do, is handle the paperwork.
In child support, not only do they handle the paperwork, you're walking out of there paying child support. You've never heard a child support lawyer say, "I'm going to make sure, based off of the information you told me, I'm going to make sure that you never pay." It's always going to be, you're going to pay something. I just don't know how much it's going to be, but it's going to be something. Nothing. There's no law that says child support is mandatory. No law whatsoever.
Man, you hit that one on the nail. As soon as you said that, I started going through my Rolodex of all the cases and men I've helped to know. And you're right. When you walk out of there, that lawyer gonna make sure you're paying something.
That's how it goes. And then you paying him to do nothing. You better off going in there by yourself and getting hit the same way.
Especially if you know better. If you know better, you'll do better, right?
Oh man, if you know better, listen. I'm almost certain every child support case in the United States of America can be won. Meaning, the only people that should pay child support are the true deadbeats, the individuals who have abandoned their children, flee from their children, and not trying to do anything to take care of their children, whether it be financially, spending time with them, all of that. That is when child support is actually necessary. Outside of that, it's not. So if I can I tell y'all a quick analogy?
Yes, sir.
I often travel out of the country, and I was in Dominican Republic most recently, and I was having a conversation with a young lady, and because I had one of my shirts on that says something about child support. And long story short, what she said to me was, in Dominican Republic, they give the father an option. So they say, listen, you're either going to pay her X amount of dollars in child support for the next however months, or you're going to go to jail, or you have to now take your child and have your child with you for X amount of months to get a mother a break. The craziest thing that I've ever heard is true, because I went and looked it up, and the guy was like, man, I don't want to pay the money. Let my baby come with me. And his baby went and stayed with him for 6 months. And the mother still gets visitation time, but their whole thing is men should be involved in the raising of their children. And if they're deciding not to raise them, that's the first place, is raising them, being in their life. If you decide not to do that, then you will be financially responsible. And if you decide not to be financially responsible, then you could possibly go to prison. And I think America should move in the same way.
Man, you didn't you came. You said you was coming with the fire. you said you was coming with it. So the Constitution piece is real heavy, because I'm gonna explain that and saying exactly that the Constitution piece is real heavy. A lot of people didn't know that's how Barack Obama was always so powerful, because he mastered constitutional law. And I think a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people didn't know how Barack Obama was able to do the things he do and have the success he had is because he mastered constitutional law. The other piece to that is that there are not a lot of mentionings. You happen to be, I've heard people talk about the Constitution. I've heard a couple of guys saying it's just not right. I've heard the whole it's not going, but what you have clarified here is understanding what the Constitution really means and how to clarify yourself when standing in court. So you have to prepare yourself, and that remains part of the problem. We hear, and I know you've seen it. Because it's funny. But we've seen mothers represent a grown son in court, where because of that very thing, I've heard several and seen several horror stories where a father was in his 70s, was the mother was still trying to take him to child support. The son went with him, so the son goes with him, and they're in there, and the child support system say you can't get another dime. You took everything, and the son finds out that all that time she was getting checks. So you talking since he was a child that she was getting checks, bankrolling this man, hitting him at every level, and he was just existing at this point. But he had been hit consistently, and the kids had been told, that your father don't do nothing for you.
That's crazy.
And the whole time he was paying child support and couldn't see him. It almost killed that man. Yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't know.
Yeah, he didn't know, but he was hating. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, a lot of people, I just want to explain this to all the viewers and anybody who might be watching this. Child support has nothing to do with custody, okay? It literally has nothing to do with it. You cannot be saying you're not going to pay your child support because your child's mother doesn't let you see your kids. That has nothing to do with anything. And I'll say this. One thing that you guys can look at, this is some free work for y'all, okay? This is what you can do. I want you to think about, when were you first notified that there was going to be a child support case brought against you? Think about that day. How did you receive that notice? Did it come in the mail? Was it taped to your door? Did a sheriff or a process server knock on the door and give it to you? Just think about that. Because the law says, under the rules of civil procedure, the service of process must be done under the United States Constitution. It says that the courts are prohibited from exercising jurisdiction unless the individual is properly served. And it says, to meet this, the plaintiff must make sure that the defendant is served with a summons and complaint. These papers are collectively called process. Okay? It says that the way that summons and complaint must be served is hand delivery. So if you receive your summons and complaint via the mail, it's not proper service. The rules of civil procedure says so. Now you might have to look it up just to get the Michigan side, but it's always the same, because all state laws and county laws are derived from federal law. Federal law is the law of the land. So federal rules of civil procedure dictates how each other state is going to catapult and start using theirs. But service of process is always the same. If they taped it to your door, if you only received it in the mail and you did not sign the waiver, guess what? They are prohibited from exercising jurisdiction. And that means that if they gave you a court order for you to pay child support, but they did not have the jurisdiction to do so because you were not served properly, then you have what's called a void order. And if you have a void order, then it means that anything that happened from the day that they served you bogusly all the way up until the future is null and void. And you can get it all thrown out. That's free game.
Ain't nothing like free game, bro. Ain't nothing like free game. That's good. That's good.
But wait, the queen was asking me a question. She got cut off because
Yeah, she can ask it.
popped in on us.
Right.
I don't know what it is now. I've lost it in the sea of interest.
Okay.
Thank you for circling back, though.
But yeah, that's good. That's good. That we got to do something in regards to going forward. So I speak on fatherhood globally, right? So you in Philly. And maybe it's something, a friend of mine is from Philly that keeps texting me, right? The space that we in, my man, where we do the podcast, he was born in Philly.
Okay.
Right? And so I think we need to be doing something together in Philly around fatherhood to expand that process. So I'm just planting that seed with you to consider and think about something that we can all pull off together. The other thing is I truly appreciate your time. So tell the people exactly where they can reach you at, how they can reach you. I've already put your link on the video, so we'll have it also in the link, where they can reach you on Instagram. But tell the people how they can reach you. Tell the people in the Philly, what's up? Detroit said, what's up? Although we didn't get a chance to whoop that butt, right? Because we had 900 injuries on defense. They got to see my Chiefs, and you got on the right colors today. So
maybe next year, man. Well, it's your boy Dev Hawk, Title 4D University, your coach, teacher, professor. You can reach me and look for me on Instagram, the @ Dev Hawk. That's DEVHOC. That's quite literally the best place to find me. The page is open for everybody. There's a lot of gems, a lot of information on there. You will learn a lot just by tapping into my IG page.
Awesome. Is there any other shout outs? Shout out to your sons for being good sons. And shout out to you for being a good father. Go for it.
Thank you. Well, definitely. You know what's crazy? So my youngest son, he's here. A lot of times when he comes down and I'm recording or doing something, he'll come and I say, come sit down, and I'll introduce him to the people. And I say, y'all need to be thanking him, because had it not been for this blessing, I wouldn't be in front of you right now. And ironically, my mother told me, she said, yo, you shouldn't be mean to that girl. I know you didn't want no other kids, but you never know the kind of blessing that could come from that little boy. And now I'm touching thousands and thousands of people across the United States because of his existence. And I'm very, very grateful for that.
Yeah.
Blessings.
That is a blessing. But you know what's even sweeter, though? Right? He got a father like you. And so because of the process and where you at, he bears the seed of a good man like you. So his DNA is marked by the same research process, the same care, the same understanding. So teaching him leadership is so important, and that's what you're doing, because he can take what you have done and expand it because of his age, his brain. These kids are really different than what we.
Yeah, you ain't never lied.
Right, and so they capable of really taking some things to another level. But man, I truly appreciate your time, man. We got to do this again. It was important, and I appreciate you. And so what I want to do is I need you to put your address in. I got a little gift for you. So I'm gonna send you a little gift. Right, and I appreciate you, man, and keep banging, man, because it's so important. Maybe one of our guys, might have to tap in and learn that game so we can help some more fathers here with our Good Fathers Only group. So,
for sure,
appreciate you, man. Keep it up, and I'll stay tapped in. I got your number. We'll stay tapped in, and I appreciate you, man. Again. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all.
All right, nice meeting you. Great work.
Good job.
So that being the case of just knowledge, he had and has a number of tools that he is at display. But what is really incredible is you're seeing an active father with the tool set of change and making a difference in people's lives. And so, with that being the case, Dave, tell them where they can reach you at. We had a few minutes.
All right, you can reach me at FMAM for Men About Men on Facebook, and you can reach me at DROME7
Dr. Heather?
You can reach me at yourinspired with a D, journey.com. That's yourinspiredjourney.com. And reach me by phone at 313-759-7855.
And you can reach me at kelvintman.com. What a day. This was nice. It was important, right? You can also tap in at goodfathersonly.com. But this was nice. It was important. And I'm hoping when this is diced and sliced up that there'll be enough information and processes to send them toward the young man to help. It's just so important, like, that you have the information to avoid these systems. It's so important, like the foster care system, the child support system, the prison system, dominate the educational system. I used to tell boys when they were young, listen, man, dominate the system. Don't let the system dominate you. Dominate the system. It's important for you to get ahead of it, learn it, get familiar with it, and outgrow it, because then you can create change. And so that's just a huge component to this work, man. And I'm just so excited for the people that's getting that jewel that he's offering, and him being passionate about it. And he looked familiar. I remember when I first started laying shirts with kids was getting killed. Boy, you give me an opportunity, I had a lot to say then. You know what I mean? So today, I still got a lot to say. Right. And I'm sure the more he learns, he's going to have a lot to say. So we thank you for tapping in today. You have been a part of Put Your Family First podcast. My name is Dr. Kelvin T. Mann. I am your host. God bless you and encourage me. I'm young. Peace.